So this section is all about the realities of the speaking business. We'll take your questions because we want to answer them first. If you don't have any specific questions, then I'll ask our panelists for some questions. Does anyone have a burning question, or shall I dive in and just... okay. Joanne, and then Angeli. Anybody else? Okay, and then Debbie, and then Elaine. I hope you're remembering this. Okay. 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 Okay, Joanna, please. Okay.
Oh, now that's honesty. Thank you.
Okay. So what is your question, or is that just an observation, testimonial, confessional? Okay, let me restate for the recording what was shared, hopefully. Yeah, exactly. So we have a participant that signed up today from the morning session and now is like, oh goodness, what did I get myself into? And I need a pro and a con to help reassure me of my decision. Is that good? Okay. From anyone in particular?
Because I have no, you go first.
Okay. Just basically, people are always worried about the homework. There's just a little bit of homework required before each class to get you ready for that class. Very often you'll do it as a group with your team, so it actually becomes quite fun and easy. If you're at all interested in making speaking your career, which we've talked about, and it sounds like you do, I mean, you don't need this program, like I told you before. It took me 5 years and almost $30,000 to get the same equivalent learning, which you're going to get in 9 months. But, it's your choice.
I would like to pick up something that you said, and correct me if I'm wrong. You actually alluded to the paperwork you have to sign. And to me, as a speaker, you will never get on stage without signing. I call them agreements. I don't call them contracts. You will most probably get one from your client or the meeting planner, and you will most probably have your own. It's called full disclosure, and to me, it means we're ethical. I can think of people in my profession and the speaking profession that would give a half day in the morning, get you all jazzed up, get you in here, and never really let you know what you've bought into. So I'm sorry that you felt an overwhelm, but we're trying to make it so that there is transparency. And several of you talked about transparency, so I'd like to think we are walking our talk. Jim?
And I agree with both of those statements. But what I also think is, especially if you could think back to high school, if you've gone into college, or if you've got your graduate degree in engineering, right? One of the things that happens on the first day of every class is the teacher tries to scare the crap out of you. And the reason is because if you can't handle that, let's weed those folks out. But you'll always know that after you push through the second week or the third week, you're like, hey, this really isn't that bad. And so if that helps, know that it may seem extremely overwhelming right now. What we hope it turns to is just extreme fun, and you will find some friends, not just amongst the instructors, but amongst the classmates, and you will be so happy, and you'll be just like us, saying, we want to give up our weekends to help other people. So that's what I believe.
You reminded me of something. I don't know if anybody here went to Berkeley, but my late husband graduated from Berkeley, and I'm sure they do this at Harvard. They say, look at the one to the right and the one to the left, because 25% of you won't be here this time next year. So that means that they're trying to get your attention so that you get the best return on your investment. So thank you for at least voicing it. Hopefully it's in the minority, and we've done a good job of not overwhelming you.
Awesome. Okay, who had the next question? Okay.
Regarding the paid professional speaking, is the focus for this training getting paid by a third party, or does it include doing your own events? I'm just trying to figure out who's...
All of the above. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, sorry, will you restate the question?
Yes, the question was, is the academy curriculum basically based towards receiving clients, some third party paying you to get on stage, or will there be any emphasis on public seminars, which is doing your own? Now, we're going to have a meeting at the end of the day to debrief from today, and one of the things I wrote down to talk about is public seminars, because as I told you very briefly, that's how I started. In NSA, if I may generalize, public seminars have never really been given the attention they should. It's sort of the poor country cousin. They come from a feeling of keynotes, and you get on the stage and you get your check and you get on the plane. For people like maybe you and I that hire the hotel, as a result, when I speak for clients, I still think as a meeting planner. So I'm always looking at the carpet. I'm saying the coffee was cold, there was no milk. When you pay catering at the end of the day, take the bill off by 30%, because that's where I came from. So if nothing else, I will commit to you that we will cover doing your own programs.
In addition, I mean, there's many ways to get paid in this business. Obviously, developing product is one of those where you don't even need to get a fee to get paid if you can sell enough product. I've made more money selling product in many of my programs than I did in any fee that they gave me. There's also sponsorships in addition to that, where a company will actually pay you to go out and speak for them to the public. So it's a combination or a hybrid of public seminars and paid speaking. Okay.
Great. Okay, Debbie, you're next.
Okay, that works.
With the academy, I'll give you an example. I went over to Europe to speak, and I was told I'd get my presentation covered. It turned out to be a coach and everything. I reached out many, many times and finally I gave up. Will the academy teach us how to protect ourselves from people who take advantage of us, like I feel like I've been taken advantage of?
So the question was, someone shared that they didn't have some travel expenses reimbursed as promised. Will the Speakers Academy address how we can better take care of ourselves and what to do when that happens? Okay, great, thanks.
Okay, I'm going to give this to you as a two-part. When I gave the program a few weeks ago for the other academy, which is across the hall, I gave out samples of my speaking agreement domestically, my international speaking agreement, my interview forms for the new clients. I gave every form I had. And as I handed it to them, I said to them in the room, would you raise your hand if when somebody calls to book you as a speaker, you have a form, a set form that you reach to fill out. One person out of 30. There's no structure. I need structure. You will have a copy of of all my forms and my speaker's agreements, both international, to protect you from that.
My contract says before I even put the presentation on my calendar, I need a 50% deposit. And then the balance is due before I leave the presentation. If it's an international program, both my fee and my travel must be paid in advance before actually it's 3 days before I leave this country. For what? The question is, are people calling me or am I calling them to speak? Mostly they're calling me because after 28 years in speaking, people now kind of know who I am. They see my website or whatever it is. They're generally calling me, emailing me, sometimes texting me. I've not had anybody, no matter how I got them, unwilling to pay the 50%, except one, who was a financial planning organization locally, who really gave me some pushback on paying the 50%, eventually paid the 50%, and never did the program, and I kept the 50%. So what does that tell you?
It's a business, and you're always going to have problems in collections. That it is something you will never get away from, and you have to be able to deal with it. I make conscious decisions all the time of not dealing with the client who owes me some money because the issues of collecting that money are greater than the money's worth. But that said, I did have a client, and it was quasi keynote. It was like a breakout session type of thing, but it was a lunch keynote type of thing. And my friend had referred me to him and said that this company's notorious for not paying. So I told that company that I needed the check before I went up to speak. And I wouldn't go up to speak until they got me the check. And it turned out somebody had to write me a check from their own bank account and got reimbursed from the company because I wasn't going to do that one. So you just have to kind of work with each other, find out what are the people that I'm working with, do you have any references, and what should I worry about? And maybe that might help you with the your situations.
Yeah, but regardless of how well known they are, or, you don't know how ethical they are. The only way to know is to treat this like a business, and especially if you're speaking internationally, you're not getting on the plane, unless you've got the money in hand and the check has cleared the bank.
2 quick comments. Normally, we do not include international in this curriculum for obvious reasons, because as people are emerging, you have to become big in your country of origin. Is there an interest here for us to put in a short session on international speaking? Okay, then let's do it.
No problem.
And the other comment, just building on something that Michael has said, when somebody calls to book me, this is exactly my choice of words. I am penciling this in. I don't care if you're on a computer. I'm penciling this in as a tentative. It will be confirmed when I've received the 50% retainer. I don't call it a deposit because that sounds like they can ask for it back. In order to retain and confirm this date, and you'll notice Patricia and I are both English, and the English are really specific on words. It is a tentative until we've received the retainer, in which case the tentative becomes a confirmed. Does that help?
And one thing to add about the deposit, the word deposit, in the state of California, deposits are refundable. So you do not want to use that word if it's not refundable. If it's, the first part of the payment, you want to call it that.
I will tell you that I was told by an attorney, and I'm not so sure it wasn't Francine, that when we take the retainer, we should actually put it in an escrow account. And it should not be commingled with our money, because it's actually... It's not our money till we've delivered the service. And if you were killed in the Golden Gate Bridge tomorrow,
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, who else? I know Rizwan. Okay. Please.
Quick question regarding, I heard the word voice coach.
What was the
Well, the question about voice coaches, there's several different kinds of coaches. There's coaches for every possible thing in the world. And so if you need a voice coach, which means you're unable to speak for long periods of time without getting hoarse, or you've got polyps or other kinds of things, that tends to be more in the realm of voice coaching, although some voice coaches work on pitch, pacing, timing, those kinds of things. The more common vernacular is speaking coach, which will then help you with your presentation, your body language, perhaps even developing your content. Can be quite expensive, can be quite reasonable too. We have many of them throughout NSA.
I will save you a ton of money. If I'm in a restaurant or a bar and there's a huge amount of noise, I don't speak, because I've learned after speaking so much that if I raise my voice at a cocktail party, the next morning I have no voice. So the sooner you can learn, if you ever lose your voice, please don't get on the microphone and whisper. You could permanently. So there are some things you need to start now. This is our livelihood. Please start those good practices now.
Susan Rowan, who's one of our chapter members, she wrote an article for the Speaker magazine on how to take care of your voice, and in particular, she has a specific diet that she follows to help protect her voice. If I can find that, I'll send it out to everyone. You have it, Craig? Okay, awesome. Okay, Elaine.
My question's a little more big picture. From your experience in speaking, years of speaking experience, why is now the time to
So, yeah, the question is, with all the years of experience of our panelists, and why, is now a good time to start speaking? Why or why not? And then it's so competitive, how can you have a competitive advantage?
I'm sure all three of us will have a different thought, but I think it will all be the same. Let me take the first point. Why is it such a good time? Correct me if I'm wrong. Everybody around the world is in information overload. Stanford released a white paper 2 years ago. Multitasking reduces our effectiveness by 25%. We better start doing one thing well instead of 5 things not very well. As we are in overload with content, I think any speaker who can get on the stage like Michael talked about and deliver content with humor and impact results, this is exactly the time. But fluff is not in it. So I'll just take the first part first.
So I was talking to Ken Braley, who is a well-known speaker and talks about information overload, and he said, but Michael, nobody's dying because I don't bring my information overload program to him. So I was trying to tell him that what he was saying is very important. I said, well, okay, Ken, so if people are overloaded with information, what happens? He says, well, they get stressed out. I said, okay, if they get stressed out, what happens? He says, well, they can get heart disease, they can get other things. I said, well, if they get heart disease, what could happen? He says, well, they could have a heart attack and die. I said, well, okay. He says, oh, well, I guess it is important what I do. So the point being that regardless of how much information and how many speakers are out there today, you hopefully provide a unique perspective on some very important topic for your audience. And who else is going to do that but you? And if you think things are crowded in our marketplace now, go back 12, 15 years ago. I mean, you had all of the big names out there. You had Mrs. Fields out there and everybody else. And we thought it was overcrowded then. And yet we all did just fine, made a great living, and have done even better since then.
All right. Well, that makes me think, the question of is it the right time makes me think of when I bought my house for my family. And I asked the real estate agent, is this the right time to buy a house? And he said, well, why are you buying a house? And I said, for a home for my family. And he said, then for you, it is the right time. It's not the right time for anybody to start a speaking business. You have to decide, is it the right time for you? And if it's the time for you to start a business, jump on in. It doesn't matter the competition. Just like in real estate, when that 2008 crash hit, the folks that just really couldn't deal with the pressure, they left the market. Many of them, though, stayed in the market, and they're still flourishing. So it's not today is the right time for everybody to be in the speaking business. It's you. Is it the right time for you is the question. And that's for you to answer, I guess.
Okay, one more question.
Can I just build on that? The only competition we have is ourselves. It's how we use our time. We are our biggest enemy. If you want to do it, it will happen.
Yes. So the question was, what are resources, how do I find out about speaking around mental health in the workplace?
Or any of you on your subject.
So you can certainly start with the NSA website and go to find a speaker, and that has topics, but they're very, very broad. But Maggie, if you type in mental health professional speaker, you will probably come up with somebody could do this right now, I'll bet you, right? Where are all the iPads? Oh my God, they were there. So anyway, but you'll find a lot of them. The question is, what can you bring to that topic that nobody else can? What have you learned over the years that, is that missing piece that nobody else is talking about that could really help a lot of people in that field? And it's true with any other topic. What do you bring to it that nobody else does?
No. Michael had thrown away a piece of gold in a one-liner, and he talked about the importance of articles. Go to the associations, get into the Google, look at the Association for Mental Health, whatever, find where their journals are, go onto the website. I think you'll most probably find the kind of thing you need.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you very much. We appreciate your insight and your wisdom. Yes. Thank you very much.